Alright, making a video. Yeah. Anyway, two subjects maybe, possibly. Words. Words are a good subject, right? And, Piro made a video. Well, yeah, it didn't make any sense. Never mind. Yeah, not even close. I don't get it. I just don't get all the extra words people use to describe what it is to think about being alive. They just seem to add an awful lot of crap in there that I don't really get, like what kind of thinking you're doing, or what kind of, it's just a string of words. The words say something, and, but some of these words we just have very different understandings of. I could describe a circumstance, and some people will say, no big deal, okay? Like, I don't know, you're walking down the street and the car goes by and there's a stick hanging out of it and it rips your arm off. Now, some people would say, well, that's just horrible, I can't even imagine going through that. And then somebody else would say, well, it'll be a bad few hours, but you'll get over it and go back to your normal. Well, I guess it won't be very normal because you won't have your arm. Just the context of what they appreciate. What they're sensitive to will define what it means to them. And I guess in a sense every word we use has the same sort of problem tied to it. Depending on who you are, you might think something is, the words mean something else to you, depending on how you've grown up with them or become connected to them. So if somebody says evolution, you might think something very different than what I might think. It's the same word, but the thoughts connected to that word, the what does it mean, what does it represent thing, will be very different. The chain of 20 other thoughts, ideas, other words that will be connected to it will be different for you than they are for me. And so that's sort of a problem in terms of our ability to communicate, because these words mean different things. And even as we travel through our life, the words become different. The word context to me didn't mean too much 3 months ago. If somebody would have said the word context, I would have got it. Context, yeah, that's its place in, other things. I would have had an understanding of the word. But currently, the last couple of weeks, the word context, I've been using it a lot, and I've been thinking about the word context, and it's just a very useful, functional kind of word. It's better than this objective word, because that scares everybody. So you just say the word context, and you're almost saying something similar, in a way. It's a similar word, but it doesn't scare people like the word objective, in terms of describing perspective. Because context is just this benign word, like seeing things in context is always a good thing, and so they haven't made it draconian, like the word honor. I could say the word honor, and some people think honor is a good thing, but then other people think, well, yeah, but honor codes have been used by all these nasty people to do nasty things, and so honor has been tainted by that. They watch the movie like A Few Good Men or something, and they see an example of, played out as a play, that honor might be a bad thing, that honor might make it possible for people to do very stupid things because it's the code, and the code always comes before the logic, and the code is just this simple way of implementing functioning. Even that word code, to different people means different things. To me, it's always associated with software more than anything else now. When I was younger, code might have been secret and subversive and hidden and, that kind of thing. It wouldn't have had the same kind of just understanding it as a language, or a way of... now it would be more associated with the idea of decoding than it would be encoding. It would have this more positive thing of revealing rather than obscuring. same word, same person, different decade, different impression, different impact. So anyway, the point I'm getting to, I guess, is that in these conversations on the internet that aren't very good conversations, we're all just talking at each other, and that's about all we're accomplishing. I mean, is to talk, and it's for what, well, it doesn't. I'm just saying, it's kind of dismal, the level of the conversation, the level of the argument, the level of the debate, the level of the the collaboration, you could even call it. I mean, aren't we kind of collaborating? Aren't we kind of attempting to, take what each other brings to the table, and we're all looking at what's at the table, and we're all rearranging what's at the table and saying, well, maybe if we put this piece in to connect it to that piece and connect it to that piece, we can make this thing happen, or make something work, or make something that says something, that we can somehow make a coherent statement out of all this back and forth. Seems the purpose of philosophy, anyway, if you're going to say you're doing philosophy on purpose, not just having a philosophy, but actually philosophizing, trying to add some sort of constructive input to the construction. These are words, right? Construction is an interesting word. But anyway, so that's sort of the obstacle here, is we're still down to the fact that you're talking to all these different people who are reacting to the words you're using in different ways, who have different sensibilities, sensitivities, who would accept different circumstances to save their life, to preserve their life, who are in different levels of addiction in the current moment, different levels of comfort, differently psychologically disposed differently, composed differently, so it's really hard to make it all relevant to everyone, and sometimes, bizarrely, it seems to me, in such a big world, that you can't make it relevant to anyone, and that the only people who seem to be getting, sometimes it's a little telling that the only people who seem to get what you're saying are completely out of their fucking minds. And, that does give you a little bit of pause, because, you're like, wow, why is this complicated? And why are the only people who are saying, I get it, eating their own poo? So anyway, I don't know, so I'll add some more. I'll go about my business and see if there's more I need to add, and then I'll add it using a little cheapest little fisheye lens you can buy. It'll distort the hell out of the video, but it beats the hell out of this thing. This thing when I got to keep worrying about where the camera is because its focal length sucks. I like having some space around me in the video. I don't like talking out of my nostril. But it doesn't really matter. That's another one of these issues of, the words should be more powerful than the person. And it does seem like it's an awful lot of personing going on rather than wording. Whatever. Alright, so be back probably, maybe, possibly. Alright, I'm back. I don't know if I really have any more. There really isn't much to say. I mean, communication with human beings is almost impossible. Because there is too much difference in just basic understandings of basic things. It's like the argument between atheist and theist, and there's absolutely no logic to religious faith. And then even the notion of God is just, it's logically vacant. It doesn't. You can't even construct one of these things. You can't construct a God psychology because it's intrinsically just looking at the system. You can't even conceive of an excuse for the waste that life creates, and why you would even why anything with any kind of competence would create anything that was flawed. I mean, life isn't just imperfect. I mean, it's fundamentally flawed. There's no evidence of justice. We go to our grave thinking that and believing that. And that there's no way to undo it anyway. There's no redeeming capacity here. You can't take it away. You can't make it go away just because it falls into the past. Am I supposed to? Because it's fallen into the past, do we just deny the existence of the suffering in, say, World War II? We just deny all the horrific death adventures that human beings went on. You can't just undo any of that stuff. So there's no logic even to the idea of a creator, even just imagining it. You can't even make one in your imagination that makes any sense, that could possibly justify the errors that have been made, to be that grotesquely irresponsible. I mean, nothing like a god of the traditional notion. Yes, you can imagine a psychotic god, a crazy god, a drunken god, but nothing that would have any. But then that would have all kinds of logical insanities about it. I mean, how can you have what would be the generator of this God then? Then the generator of the God has to be broken. You go back, keep finding these broken devices that keep producing broken things. And of what service would a broken God be? It'd be of no use to us. It wouldn't change our circumstance any. It wouldn't change the conversation about whether our existence has purpose and whether we can do anything to fix it. And I haven't even gotten to the subject of evidence. So just in imagination, the concept fails. And then when you get to just raw logic of like, why would I believe a 2,000-year-old story without corroborating evidence? Why would I accept it as just because people believed it? Because it was the belief that the majority of vicious soldiers fought for? The most vicious armies believed in it, and therefore I should believe it? I mean, what's the credential of these religious fables? Is that the ones that were the most malicious and battle ready to exterminate anything that disagreed with them, are the ones that survived over time? So, but why would I take any story, and say, yes, I'll believe your story? Especially when it's an extraordinary story. It's intrinsically doesn't make any sense. And then they say, they can certainly argue that they have some personal feeling that tells them God exists, that they've experienced a conversation with some spirit thing, and then there's the explanation. But that's of no value to anybody who uses logic as a way of acquiring understanding. So I can't. Again, I'm stuck. What the hell am I supposed to do with that? It's not useful as a mechanism for doing anything that we do in our lives. It's not. It's like telling me to, it's. I can't even describe a utensil as unfunctional as feelings, as a method of acquiring understanding. It's not a fork. It's a fork with no tongs on it. It's a knife with no blade. It's a square thing. I mean, how do you eat with this nonsense? It's a spoon with holes in it. I mean, it just doesn't. These are useless tools to acquire understanding in every other circumstance in your existence. You don't do this. You know not to do this. That it will not give you the truth. It will give you a lie. So yeah, it's just on that foundation right there. We're just already, most of the human race can't even have a rational conversation. So what good are words anyway? Because they're impervious to the logic that's built into the creation of the words, even the connection between the words, the the use of the words to describe other words. I mean, all these concepts are completely blown up because they don't have to follow any of these rational rules. They just say it is because I say so, because my brain tells me it is. And that's all. And then they somehow stand there and make an argument with you like somehow you're supposed to fall for the same mush. That they hand you this nothing and they say, yeah, here, you too. And they make a funny face at you if you say, why should I do that? What's the rational reason? What's the compelling logic? Why is it to my advantage? Oh, you're going to punish me in hell? That you haven't explained to me how that exists either? That why the overlords of the hell would cooperate with your justice system and impose the suffering on the victims you're victimizing because they didn't, they weren't convinced by your I say so? Yeah. Oh, gee. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, you can laugh at it, but this is serious. The whole fucking world is running on this crap. This is what runs the fucking human race. It's running on shit this smelly. And people are defending life on Earth. They're defending the human race even. It's not even life on, but they're defending this shit. And you're just saying, how can you defend something? Just look at this one piece of evidence. Just look at this one thing. That here we are in 2012, and we have to still explain to most of the human race that these old friggin' religious stories are just that. They're just old stories. Alright? They don't have any intrinsic credibility. The fact that most people believed it doesn't mean anything, because most of the people who believed it were part of a machine of civilization that just basically killed anything that disagreed with them. They didn't earn victory by having some rational debate in the public square about what the truth was. They told people you're going to believe it or you're not going to survive. You're not going to thrive. We're going to make life impossible for you. And so they didn't earn any of this. They don't own. They don't own us through an honest purchase. They don't own the human race, honestly. It's just this dishonest, born into it, psychotic disease that these people keep giving to their kids. Anyway, I didn't mean this to get on that subject, but it sort of it ends up, words is every subject, right? Because every subject is polluted by words. Even the conversations with Pyro on physics. Words get in the way. You see, he insists on using certain words, and first he's using words that have very abstract definitions in very small circles of human conversation, so it's an elitist language of a sort. And then on top of that, when he uses a common word, he uses it, words like wave that will apply to some phenomenon happening in a completely different circumstance under a completely different dynamic, and they'll use the same word to describe these two things, these things that are happening in one scale and things that are happening in a completely different scale, merely because they have a few coincidental similarities. It's almost like calling anything that walks on two legs human. It just wouldn't be appropriate, wouldn't be sensible. It wouldn't be the way you would describe what it is to be human. What it is to be human would be characterized by something more than that. So it's just all this breakdown in language. Wherever you go, there's this breakdown in our ability to communicate, because we all have a subjective personal experience with words, and that isn't conducive to the function of language. It's very corrosive. And instead of people working towards fixing that problem, they seem to be celebrating an abuse of that problem. Just make it even worse. Use some more screwed up, funky language. So anyway, yeah. So now it's enough of a video, I believe. Maybe a third installment, but I don't think so. Having a rough day. They're all rough, but this is a rougher one. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, till next time. Clothes. Yeah, I gotta fold some clothes. Yeah, I gotta get to that. Yeah. Alright, I guess we'll call this a day video. Yeah, now I'm listening to some of this interview between Feta Guy, who doesn't like to be called Feta Guy, and, yeah, Feta. Anyway, and Zombie Picture Show, and really kind of irritating. I mean, first, Feta Guy said, oh yeah, well, everybody thinks capitalism is bad, but what about the alternative? You mean where workers get paid the value of their work? Oh, how offensive. Anyway, and then it's basically implied that civilizations and politics and democracy, all these things, they're all just always fail. They always fail. Like they always are going to fail. Like there's no such thing as doing it right. There's only doing it wrong. Like there is no solution, and they would have found the solution if it was out there. But that, unfortunately, that's not how it works. The problem is you always have to convince the fucking moron majority of a truth before you can move to that truth. That's why it takes so long to stop doing preposterously stupid things, is because it just takes so long to get stupid people to understand they're stupid. That's all. Anyway, and then I don't know what the other thing. But anyway, and I'm only a little tiny way into the video. It's 2 hours. 2 hours. If I really like these guys, then it might be 2 good hours, but no, it's going to be 2 hard hours. Don't know if I'll finish it. But anyway, that's for tomorrow or the next day's video, right? Yep. So, enough for today. Today's video. Signing off. From today. Yeah, I'd be curious to see just how bad this fisheye lens is, and such. You know, it only cost me $1.50, so maybe I'll buy another one. Yeah, we'll see.